Hello, everyone. I'm Nick Shah. I'm the founder and president of Peterson Technology Partners. Last year, US companies spent $34 billion in IT staffing. And the projection is we will be spending close to $54 billion by 2029. But the recruiting process, the current process is broken. It's not efficient. It's not effective, both for the companies, the hiring managers, as well as the employees and consultants who are looking for projects. The way I envision the industry to evolve or change is that the hiring managers and the consultants candidates having their own digital twin that does a lot of the heavy lifting for both sides, right? Imagine on the hiring manager side, you have a digital twin that's an accurate representation of not just the company, but yourself as well as the job that you are trying to recruit, right? And on the candidate side, you have a digital twin that's able to speak and behave and act just like you in the real world, right? So, what it's supposed to do is that it cuts down through the paper resumes, paper job description, and matches you accurately to a open job and the candidate profile. It brings you close as much as it possibly can, 70-80%, and then the remaining 30-20% is done by in-person or video interviews between a hiring manager and the candidate. So to talk about the future state of recruiting, I have with me Emil Jimenez, the president and founder of Mindbank.ai. Welcome, Emil.
Hello, Nick. Thank you for having me. So, Mindbank is a generative AI personal digital twin platform. What does that mean? It means that we're able to take generative AI models and personalize them for you for intelligent automation, for work, personal life, and for health. So now you can digitize your health self for work and for longevity, for health. That's what the platform does. And to solve that billion-dollar problem, billions of dollar problem that you were mentioning a second ago, we can streamline the process of hiring because now your digital twin can do a lot of the heavy lifting for the candidate as well as for the hiring manager.
But Amil, before we go into recruiting problem, tell us how did you come up with Mindbank and what inspired you to build Mindbank?
Like many things in life, we're inspired in the most innocent ways. So my daughter, when she was 4 years old, playing with her iPad, inspired me to create Mindbank. She was having a conversation with Mindbank with Siri. And at one point she says, Siri, I love you. You're my best friend. And the jealous daddy in me was like, wait a second. I can build a Siri sounds like that, things like that, and she can have her daddy forever. And that's what started my bank. And as you know, one journey can lead you into another and into another. That's
That's
the
right.
beauty of life. So
That's
what
right.
started as my quest for immortality for my child actually created a platform that anyone could digitize themselves, store their memories, store their wisdom, but use that for work, intelligent automation, or for health, specifically mental health.
Right. And for listeners, I've been in the recruiting industry for 30 years, almost 30 years. And I have always been looking for better ways to help the hiring managers, the companies, and the candidates have a great experience or better experience than what the current system provides, right? And that's when I reached out to Emil when I heard about his mental health digital twin through Northwestern University classes. I was like, is there something that we can do for recruiting industry, right? There has to be a digital twin that can possibly help us, uh, the hiring manager as well as the employees get a better experience, right? So, Amil, if we have to create a digital twin for the individual, how will that work?
Well, it's very much like a person applies for a position. If you think about it, a resume, a piece of paper is a paper twin of that person in a way, right?
Right.
It tells them who you are, where they're from, their history, a little bit about that person. And we have so much digital footprint now that we can take a resume, cover letter, anything that you've written of consequence of content, your knowledge. It could be a book, it could be an article you've written, and start creating the mind of that person, how they think, what they know, what's their experiences, And using the latest in large language models, the hiring manager can now have a conversation with that person, even without the person being in the room. And that's what we've built with the Mindbank platform.
So, Amil, I mean, this is on the candidate side, right? But one of the biggest challenges that I see in the industry is the pain point that hiring managers have to go through, right? Sometimes they have uh, old job descriptions. Sometimes they copy paste the job descriptions which are not accurate. So, how do you think having a digital twin would help the companies or the hiring managers do better?
Well, from the hiring manager perspective, it's really about reducing pressure in their job, their day to day, right? And embracing these tools to create that job post the best way, and then they can add to it, right? I always say that AI is not artificial intelligence. AI is augmented intelligence for you.
Right.
So to your point of the job post, you can easily create a job post from, a platform, and then you add your sauce, right? You add your specific necessity. So it might have taken you, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes to create, now it takes you 5. Right? That's the advantage of embracing AI tools in the latest technology. So ultimately, it is about reducing the pressure on HR managers so they can deliver positions faster.
But yes, I mean, that is one aspect of it, right? Is helping HR managers come up with the job descriptions or accurate job description, right? Because that is one of the major issues is having inaccurate job descriptions for positions, right? I have been on numerous calls with the hiring managers where they were like, "Oh, did we send you this job description? That's a wrong job description. We didn't need to hire this person. We need to hire somebody else altogether." So there is a waste of time and resource that comes into play. So if you have to imagine a future where you have your digital twin helping the hiring managers, how would that be?
I see it as a very personal way. What I mean by that is like, what started this whole hiring uh, product for Mindbank was something we used internally. And
Okay,
as a gentleman was leaving the company, he was like, "Oh, I wish we had another Sebastian," right?
interesting.
And the soft skills of this, sorry, the hard skills of this data scientist is quite easy: experience, background, etc. But
Right.
understanding personality, passion, their emotions, how they fit into our organization or our team, that was something that's hard, very difficult to capture. So, my hypothesis was, can I use the same mental health dashboards to identify a candidate that fits well into our organization, our team? And usually you say, "Oh, I want someone just like Nick, just like Steve."
Right.
So, it would be amazing if the hiring manager could just go to our platform and say, "Give me another Nick," and we already know Nick, and can say, "This profile fits. Here's 50 Nicks." Yeah.
And we have been in situations where hiring manager would be like, "Hey, you have placed these people on my project. Just find someone like him or her." You know, they don't have the time to create a job description or write a job description. It's much easier for them to point and say, "Hey, find me someone like this person." So, how do you think? I understand. Personality communication is important, but how do you think having a digital twin of the hiring manager and candidate would help in this situation?
So I always like to look at things from the consumer side. So the typical process of a candidate looking for a job is that they go on LinkedIn or some platform like whatever, Monster, whatever. They send their resume out, apply to jobs, and hear nothing back. Goes into this black hole of
Right.
ATS systems.
That's right.
And there's no, in today's age, we have feedback loops about everything. In fact, the reason why we built dashboards for Mindbank was because, when I was building this during COVID, I was running and realized that my running app gives me little bit feedback loops about my running. I run this many miles in this much time, and that gives you that engagement, right? So I was like, how can we do that for the mind? That's how we started finding psycholinguistic models that basically analyze what you say and create the dashboards every time you use it. So moving into the hiring side of things, we hire people for their skills, but also
Okay.
for their culture, their personality, how they fit into the team. All these soft things are also very important for both candidates and hiring manager. So ultimately, what it's going to do is going to make the process much faster because now that conversation happens on the digital twin level. That screening happens on the digital twin level. Both candidates understand each other from a data perspective, almost like a dating app. And then
Right.
when they
Yeah.
actually have a real meeting, you know the person a little bit. You can relate. Oh, Nick is just like Steve. I kind of more or less know how to navigate this kind of person. That's very important.
So you are saying that before even the hiring manager and the candidate comes together in person or over the video interview, the profile of that person is already built for the hiring manager to have access to it and see, if this person or this individual will be close to people on his or her team. So there is some kind of a match that has already happened.
So we match it on what the hiring manager is going to see is they're going to see the skill set of this person in terms of are they open, are they let's say the different personalities like open, are they agreeable, this kind of things, and how does that match to a particular role,
Okay.
right? There's certain profiles that are really specific to certain, let's say, success, and then they can see what's that answer. So for on a very basic level, the hiring manager enters uh, a role that they want to
Okay.
fill, the pre-qualifying questions that they want to get answered. They answer those questions, and then we match both the candidate and the hiring manager to how close are they to that position.
And this is done prior to them even getting on a call or a video chat.
Exactly. This is done completely digitally. They answer the questions once, and then we can scale that thousands, hundreds, thousands of times.
But
Um,
so if I'm the candidate, I want to make sure that whatever I'm entering is 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 secured. So how do I know that the information I'm entering is secured, right? Because that's the big news these days. Security. Um,
so from a perspective of security, obviously we take security very seriously, and we have many layers of access. So currently, there's only one person who has access to our production server, which means that they have access to the raw data. I don't even
okay.
have access to this, to give you a perspective. And that also creates a single point of failure, right? From a perspective of like only that person is. Obviously, then we have um, other areas of security, right? Where there are two people need to approve access, and there's all kinds of other things. But that's on the, let's say, the hardware side,
But
right?
it was just one person on crowdsource who brought the whole thing down 2 weeks ago, just messing with
It
people.
was one intern, yeah, yeah. No, but at the end of the day, if something goes wrong, I know exactly who to call, right? So head of
Right.
our CTO basically. So he's the only person who has access to the production. He's the only person that pushes things to production. And if he gets hacked, then we've got problems. And, but we have also systems of like double check. So if he has to make any changes to our infrastructure, I have to approve. So there's a lot of things there as well from a technical side. And obviously, from an ethical side, we don't sell your data to anyone else. We don't sell your data to, I don't know, marketing services and things like that. This is strictly to create your digital twin, right? And then what you do with that digital twin is yours. The data is yours. You can delete, you can write to be forgotten. We have all kinds of GDPR,
I was
HIPAA
going to ask you
compliance.
about GDPR.
Yeah, all these compliances are in place. Right to be forgotten. Everything is in place for that. So
Okay.
but for you to delete your account and erase your records. But ultimately, if you think about what the product ultimately's goal is to be your digital repository, your mind bank. And like every bank, you deposit your money, you have a certain level of trust, and you expect to extract value from that bank,
Right.
right? And then that's what we're delivering.
But talk about how easy it is to build a digital twin or start that process, right? Because it's a journey. It's not like one and done. It's the journey, right? The more you give or more you give information to your digital self, the more it's going to know you and be able to do a lot of the work that you are asking it to do. But how easy it is to get started.
So it's very easy because you can upload documents and you just have a conversation with your AI interviewer, and then it starts pulling in that information. So, for example, in our current workflow, if you have a resume, upload it. Now it knows your work history. Cover letter. Now it has your wants, desires, the way you think. We can get a really good profile from the cover letter. But like you said, that is a good representation of a digital twin of Nick the worker, the person
Right.
looking for a job.
That
Has
is
nothing to do with your personal life, has nothing to do with, where you've studied, what you've read, or these things. So to continue on that process, if you look at a person who's written a book, they can upload the book into the digital twin. All of
right.
these things add data, add value to the person.
But now, let's say, there is only a small percentage of people who would have written a book as a candidate, right? But if I have done projects, um, not my client projects, but my personal projects, whether I built a small um, Python code to extract stock information. I'm just giving you a very basic example. Can I upload my work so that it can learn what kind of projects, what kind of work I done, and at what level technically would I fall?
It doesn't analyze, let's say, code in that respect and
Okay,
give you a scoring, but it would analyze a story. So just like in an interview, you would tell the
exactly.
screener, "Oh, I've done this code for this project and I use this technology."
Right. And
And
that's the intent. That's what I was asking you. I'm not saying that, does it tell me whether my code is accurate or does it actually
yeah,
compile, but can it understand what projects or work that I have done?
yeah,
So it
definitely,
can
definitely.
intelligently speak on my behalf, or like give access to my GitHub, for example.
Yeah, and these things would be great to implement in the future, but realistically, if you look at it from a perspective of an interviewer screener, right, the person might not be very technical. So even if you get GitHub access, you're not going to know what to do.
Right.
What we do know is that we'd say, okay, what projects have you worked on? What language have you done? Tell me something you've done in a personal level. And to use your example, someone like that telling that story would immediately say, okay, this person can work with this code base, this person can work with that,
Right.
and these types of projects that are fintech related, let's say. So immediately you have you can tick a few boxes. Does the person have experience with Python? Yes. Does the person have experience with fintech? Yes. And at what level? Then that's a different question, right? That's a technical question, and that's I think where the human could come in for two reasons. Where in the human level, you can catch a cheater much faster. You know, do they really know this thing? Whereas, are they just copy pasting something from the internet and say they know something? And that's where we have to define the line, really.
Okay, understood. But now, talk about from the client perspective, right? I understand, from a candidate perspective, what it is to build a profile. Um, but now, if we are talking to an enterprise client, and within those, there are hiring managers and several of them. So, how does someone go about doing that? Do they have to start at the company level to build the digital twin, or can they do it individually?
I would suggest you start at the company level because that'll give the candidate, once they have that conversation, an interesting idea of their culture and who they are, what they do, these kind of things.
Okay.
But it could be very general. Think of that as like the cover letter of the company, right? in that
Right.
respect,
Right.
right?
If I'm applying for it, I want to know the company and the culture of the company before I even talk about or want to look at any of the positions, open position that the company may have. So,
Exactly.
so
Yeah.
this would help them give that overview.
Yeah. So from that process, the cover letter is the cover letter of the company, and then the job role, it understands like what is it you're looking for to do matching. But I'd say the next most important thing is what are the top 5 questions that you ask a candidate when you screen them,
Right.
right? And then those are the 5, 10, whatever the number of questions that every single candidate is going to get. That is the baseline, right?
Okay.
They're all going to get these 5 questions. They're all going to get the same um, uh, job post, and they're all going to get the same cover letter. The variable is going to be how they answer those questions and how close they are to that job role, right? And those two things plus the cover letter will give you a really interesting hard skills and soft skills score for both the hiring manager and the candidate because it's all about matching
Right,
culture to
exactly.
the candidate, right? That's
Yes.
really what it is.
And that's one of the biggest problem right now, right? Is that misalignment. You want to call it misalignment, mismatch is, and there has been a lot of times where hiring managers have hired wrong people based on just the first or two rounds of interviews. And then they realize 30, 60 days, 90 days later that, this is not the person that they actually thought the person would be. So anything that you want to share that this platform possibly or having a digital twin would help?
Well, if we look at it from perspective of both sides, I think it takes two to tango. I always look at it. It is about finding the best fit from the pool of candidates. And as you said in the beginning, this system is very much broken. Hiring managers get thousands of jobs applicants, and they filter it out with some automated system that just looks at keywords,
Okay.
right? And people can kind of hack that. So you get this kind of experience. And how many of these are good, not the right candidates is very high. Now, if you get the right data, both sides, meaning I understand who the culture is, I see that it's an interesting fit. I see who the candidate is, it's a good fit. Both of them humans say that it's a good fit, right? And then on the second process, it's a screening process. Okay, now let's meet and see if what you say on paper is real,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Because a lot of times we rely on paper, let's be honest. So we can only analyze what's in front of us. What we do is that we trim the fat, right? We
All right.
cannot prevent someone from lying. That's not something we can do. But at least if people are truthful, they would, align and everything aligns and you see that candidates that fit better to the role and culture always last long.
That is the most important part. I mean, when I started the company in 97, it was 75% technical skills and 25% was soft skill. Over a period of 26 years, that numbers have been shifting. It's becoming more of that soft skills and personality more so than the technical skills. So it's almost I can say that it's reversing, and
Yeah,
and
that's
more
definitely.
more and more companies are looking for people who can communicate, who can understand the business problem, right? Because nobody writes code from scratch.
Yeah.
Um, so it's becoming an interesting puzzle to solve, and the current process is not working. So
Yeah.
we need to create an alternate or a different way of recruiting. So any last thoughts, Amil, from you that you want to share?
I'd like to close this off by saying that we need to begin to embrace AI tools, and it's slowly becoming a thing. But when I started this 4 years ago, people thought I was crazy. Now people think I'm interesting. They still think I'm crazy, but at least they're willing to give me
It's
the
always
time.
the crazies that change the world.
They still think, literally people say, "Oh, you're never going to be doing this. This is way too." Yeah, maybe in 20 years the technology will be here. Um, but just to close it off in terms of statistics, Gartner predicts that by 2027, 15% of the world will have a digital twin.
Interesting.
That's the world, right? And I personally think it's going to be more like 25% of the world because I see other numbers like myself that I think that's going to be the case. So if you put that into the context of who is going to have a digital twin, who's going to really leverage the digital twin, it's definitely going to be Western cultures, technical cultures, right? But it's going to start trickling down in different use cases. So those that embrace it today will win tomorrow. That's how I would like to close it off.
Awesome. Thank you, Amil. Thanks for joining this.
Thank you, Nick, for having me.